I think we're live.
Yeah.
Hi, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Maria. How are you?
And
Hey,
we're back
watchers.
at
I
it
want to
again.
welcome you guys here to Rallying Thoughts with Josh and Maria. And this is our second episode. This is our second episode live on Rallying Thoughts with Josh and Maria. And this is literally, we just started, not what, 2 weeks ago? We started 2 weeks ago. And
2
this is
weeks ago.
my first podcast. This is Maria's first podcast, and we're so excited to bring this episode to you. What do you think, Maria? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? I think we're skipping a very important little topic here. It was Josh's birthday last week. So
It
happy
was.
birthday, Josh.
Thank you. I'm getting a little older, but hey, I'd rather get old than
You're never going to be as old as me, though.
right. Not quite. I'll reach your age at one point, but I'm not going to be quite there. Yeah. I'm 32, guys. 32 young, and trying to play the
Well, you're
best
looking
tennis of
great,
my
Josh.
life. Trying to play the best tennis of my life. Thank you, Maria. I appreciate it. You look great as
Awesome.
well.
So our first episode, we were, just touching base with all the reasons why we wanted to do the podcast, everything that we wanted to cover, and
Really quick, if sorry to cut you off, Maria.
No, you're fine.
For the watchers, if you have not seen that first episode, please go on YouTube, watch that first episode, subscribe to our first episode, and you're going to get a lot of more content. And if you like tennis, or if you like any kind of tennis topics, or even fitness, this would be a great podcast for you to subscribe to. So if you're on YouTube, you could just put in Rallying Thoughts with Josh and Maria, or just Rallying Thoughts, and you'll be able to find us. Okay, subscribe, give us a like.
Please subscribe below, guys.
Yeah, and check out that first episode. It's the first time we ever did a podcast. So if you want to see what the first looks like, it's there. Check it out. Go ahead, Maria. Sorry to cut you off. I just
No, it's all good, Josh. We were just thank you for mentioning that. That way our viewers can continue watching the content that we'll be putting out. And like Josh said, this is our first podcast ever. Initially, when Josh and I were talking, we were going to upload our videos, and he's like, no, let's be ourselves and just go out there and have a good discussion and go live. So as bold as it is, we managed to do it, and we continue to do it, even though we're not pros at doing a podcast. We're doing it. We're doing it live, and we're enjoying it, and we're touching base on many great topics. One topic I wanted to ask you is,
go ahead. Let's get
although
into
you're a tennis coach, do you enjoy watching tennis, and why?
I really do enjoy watching tennis. And the reason why is because I get to see tennis being played at the highest of levels. There are reasons why I might not like watching tennis, but for the most part, I love watching it. Okay. I think that the best talents are on TV. You have a lot of great tennis players out right now in today's game that are crushing it. Right now, we're going through a little bit of a changing of hands, because the era of past, where it's like the Roger Federers and the Djokovic and the Nadals, they're kind of already out, or if not on their way out. So it's an exciting time with tennis, because you want to see who's going to take up that throne, who's going to be the next person to
and are they going to be
win all these Grand Slams. Go ahead.
And are they going to be as consistent as the top three were? Or are they going to interchange all the time?
That's a super interesting question. Now, to me, I'm also a basketball fan, and I like other sports. Basketball is probably one of my favorite sports that I like to watch on TV, and it's a very fast-paced game, where tennis is more of a slower-paced game. And I wish tennis was a little bit more fast-paced. And the only reason why I say it's a little slow-paced is because every point ends with the serve. So once the point is over, then you start up a new point with the serve. So it's almost like how the pitcher throws a pitch in baseball, right? All the action happens. That when you mentioned it. Yeah, absolutely. So all the action happens right after the pitch throws the pitch, and then all this action happens, and then it stops, and then everybody takes a rest, and then you have the next patter come up. So with tennis, it's not as slow as baseball, which is the best news you can ever have. It's a lot faster than baseball, but it's still not as fast as other sports like soccer or basketball. What
Yeah,
are your thoughts on today's game, and do you like watching tennis on TV, Maria?
I do. I enjoy watching it because I understand and appreciate all the hard work
Hmm.
that is behind the scenes, and of course the level of play. A lot of players have to be disciplined. They
Sure.
sacrifice and put a lot of dedication into all the work before being able to execute and deliver on court. And not
Right.
only is it interesting to see the players' abilities from all the training and all the work that they've had to endure to expose their talents, but they also have to deliver under great amounts of pressure. So whatever you're seeing on a tennis court, you have to imagine yourself, whatever talent it may be, to do it in front of millions and millions of eyes.
Right.
And that is very hard to do because you may be great at something and automatically you buckle under pressure. So I
Right.
appreciate all the work. So that's why I can enjoy it more. And I think there's a higher chance of enjoying a sport when we understand it, right? So,
Absolutely.
for example, I used to say, I don't like football, I don't like baseball,
Right.
because I didn't understand it that well.
Right.
But I started noticing that if I understood a couple of, a couple assets around the sport, I started appreciating and enjoying it. So I feel that
Sure.
we can all enjoy whatever it is as long as we understand it. Because if you don't understand something, you lose interest. So I think you get a
Right.
great appreciation for it.
Yeah.
And I
One
want
thing
to
I
say something real
go
quick,
ahead.
sorry,
You're good.
because you're asking me, and I asked you the question, of course.
Yeah.
I also feel that watching tennis can also depend on the mindset that you're in your
Right.
life. For
Yeah.
example, when I was brought up watching tennis with my parents and I used to train, I used to watch a lot of tennis. There were
Right.
periods in my life, however, where I was going through changes. Even though I was a tennis coach, I was in a different mindset, maybe not always in a positive mindset. We have ups and
Right.
downs in life. So there was a gap where I wasn't, and I didn't enjoy it because I wasn't present with myself. So
Sure.
I think that plays a huge part.
Yeah. I think there's a part of aspect of tennis that we don't necessarily realize unless you're a tennis player, like
Yes.
you kind of touched on it. Uh, Being able to perform with all those eyes on you. And the weird thing, the difference between tennis and a lot of other sports is like there's no coach. There's really nobody out there on the court with you to
Mm,
give you a pointer like, hey,
yes.
you need to do this, or hey, they have a weakness here. All these things you have to figure out on your
You
own.
have to build
Uh,
resilience on your own.
and a lot of times when you're playing tennis, sometimes your focus is on something totally different. Your focus might be on what you're doing wrong instead of
Mhm.
the hole that's in somebody else's game. Where, in other sports, you have a coach there to say, hey, this is the issue with their game. You need to focus on that and go this route. Where in tennis, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have that. You kind of just, and a lot of players implode with that. And even the professional tennis players on TV, you don't get to see them implode like amateurs, right? Amateurs, you'll see them throw their racket or really get
Yes.
upset and really lose it. And in the pros, you do see it every once in a while, but not as much as you would on the recreational level. And it's really impressive to see how they can hold it together, especially when they're down and maybe it's match point and things like this. It's really impressive to see these guys play
Which
at the
speaks
highest of
volume
levels.
about their mental toughness, because it's really within the top 50 or 100 where it doesn't come down to the quality of their game or even the top 500. It's
I,
down to their mental toughness.
You're absolutely right. And I think this is a great
Mhm.
segue to go into that next question of like, there are different tournaments, right? All
Yeah.
year long, there is tournaments going on. There's tournaments international, there's tournaments domestic. And in tennis, we have, what we call a Grand Slam, which is the four biggest tournaments in tennis, almost like a Super Bowl of tennis. Now, um,
Where you can
it's
acquire more points throughout your winnings as well.
right. And acquire more money and more eyes are watching. Those matches are more televised. So those matches are the ones that you're going to see on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if we had somebody that never watched tennis before, which one of those tournaments would you probably get them to watch for the first time? If they've never seen tennis, which is one that you would like to see them on TV, or which one would you have them watch on TV first?
I feel like the one that comes to everybody's mind, whether it's conscious or subconsciously, I feel that Wimbledon does.
Okay.
I feel that it's also perception too, and I'll tell you why. I feel that it's kind of placed on a certain pedestal due to the attire that they wear, due
Yep.
to the fact that it's in the Queen's home.
Yep.
It's on a grass court, which any of the other slams are not.
Sure.
So with that being said, it's in such a pristine, it's such a classy, Wimbledon is such a classy town. It's like I mentioned, all the above. It's looked up to. You kind of look at it as a royal sport, and I think
Right.
that perception automatically provides the idea of that wild card where Wimbledon is at the top. However,
sure.
I will say this: there are the other three Grand Slams, which is the Australian Open, the French, and the
Madrid.
US Open, which I
Yeah.
think are equally as great tournaments. I feel the differentiation between Wimbledon and the rest of the topics or
Yeah.
the reasons why. Sorry, I keep
Right.
stumbling on my words.
You're good. I can hear
But
you.
I understand you understand where I'm trying to go with this.
Right.
However, I feel that every tournament offers its own unique twist. You
For
have the
sure.
Australian Open, which is on the complete other side of the world. It's on hard court. You
Right.
have the French Open, which is on clay,
Clay.
which none of the other Grand Slams are on clay.
Right.
And then you
Right.
have the US Open. All three are in different hemispheres. Well, one is on a different hemisphere, but the other two are on different continents. The
Right.
climate can affect the whole aura of the tournament, the
Sure.
crowd. So in their own unique way, they all are beautiful in their own way. But Wimbledon, I feel, surpasses all of them due to the perspective and due to the standards it's raised, due to their clothing, that
Right.
it's on grass court. There's more, the court needs to be manicured a little bit more and taken care
Sure.
of, as opposed to clay court or hard court.
Right.
It's in the Queen's home, like I said, and it's
Ye-
just got that it factor that the others don't.
Now, I've never been to Wimbledon, but from what I hear, that's the one that you have to make sure you go to. Now, if I'm watching tennis on TV, I might be a little biased here, but
I
I
know
don't
what you're going to
necessarily,
say,
yeah,
because we've
I
talked
don't
about this
necessarily
before.
prefer Wimbledon for a couple of different reasons. I think Wimbledon favors certain type of players, and I think Wimbledon is, I don't know, there's such a big audience on that tournament where I feel like some players might not be able to play their best. And I think it has that prestigiousness of it where, like, even the people that are attending the tournament have to dress up, and everybody's dressed to the T, and everybody's, looks so classy. I like the US Open. It's in the heart of New York City.
I would say that's my second favorite. I would say, yeah.
I feel like every year in the US Open, you have somebody breaking out, you have like newcomers coming up. Naomi won it a couple years ago. You have a lot of drama, like US, we like drama. So there's always like some kind of drama surrounding that tournament. Something's going on, and it's a major, so it matters. It's not like it's one of these smaller tournaments. It's like any little thing that happens at the US Open, which things are going to happen at the US Open.
Yeah.
Because Americans love our, story, maybe on court and off court. Like we always hear about, certain things that happen on court. What comes to mind is like a couple of Serena's rants and things like this happen at the US Open. So like these things, to me, I love the on court, and with it being on court, it's a hard court. So you get to see These players really smack the ball, really go for it. It's not the hottest tournament
There's a
like
lot
in
more
Australia.
intensity on a hard court, whereas in the French, the rallies are longer because when the ball
Yeah,
bounces on a clay court, it slows down, and therefore you have to be a little bit more creative, which is also interesting.
yeah.
Uh,
And I
I
feel
feel
like
like you
even
said,
sometimes,
every Grand Slam has its unique space, and I just, like I said to you, I don't know if you were to ask 10 people, I feel that the majority would say that, but I like your input on the US Open because you're not saying the tournament that the majority probably would
right?
root for. So,
Yeah, and we need Americans, but like I think that US Open is kind of doing something to tennis where it's like they're trying to lead, they're trying to make it more modern. They're trying to make it more
yeah,
colorful. And I think that's
yes.
a beautiful thing that we need, as far as that tournament, that's our tournament. And it shouldn't be like the Wimbledon or French Open. And
Mhm,
it should be
mhm.
its own thing. And Americans should have their own twist to it. I
Well,
totally agree.
speaking of color,
Yeah,
regarding men's and women's clothing,
sure.
what is your input about tennis attire in general?
I in years past, I didn't like the men's attire. I felt like men's attire, maybe back in the early
Mhm.
2000s, was a little too baggy. I never really loved that Nadal 3/4 half the. Remember when he had that, like, it wasn't shorts, it was like the pants that came like
Yes.
right to his calves. Remember that? And that was like when he was always picking his wedgie, and it was really bad back then. I
Yeah.
never loved that look. The look before that, I felt like the shirts were really, really baggy.
Don't you think
And
though that the attire kind of went in line with what fashion was with mainstream fashion? Or do you think, because I'm trying to think back as well, if
I think it did have something to do with mainstream fashion. And I
mhm,
think back then, you know, I feel like now a lot of our clothing is fitted. It's fit to our body to make it look good. Especially
mhm,
like people that go to the gym. I feel like, athletic attire, they've tried to make it to where, if you lost a few pounds and you get a shirt, it's gonna, show off your muscles and show
yeah.
off what you got going on. And I feel like some of the clothes that we have now are the best, even though I'm not necessarily happy with what we even have today. I think it's way better than what they had. With the women's side, I don't think the
What
women's
would you
side
like
has
to see
changed
different in
much.
men's attire? I'm curious.
Believe it or not, I would like to see more of, and I have to be careful on this podcast because somebody might run with my idea. And if you run with my idea, you owe me some money. No, I'm talking to the audience here. No, but
You can say as much or as little as you choose.
it's okay. I would like to see shirts that are cut off at the sleeve here. I
Mm,
don't think tennis players should necessarily have a sleeve like we have. I don't think there
mm,
should be like a crew neck shirt with like a actual sleeve. I think the
okay.
sleeve should be almost like an NFL jersey or even like a NBA jersey where it's like just a
Okay.
jersey where the sleeves
Okay.
are out. And I've had a whole bunch of different ideas with this, but I feel like the person that's doing that now is Nick Kyrgios. A lot of his attires, he doesn't
Mm,
have a sleeve. He has
mm,
just his sleeves are open because I feel
yeah.
like sleeves are restricting your motion a little bit,
Yes.
and not a lot. But you want to be comfortable, especially, we are Florida tennis players. We play in the heat all the time. It's hot, man. It gets really
Mm.
hot. So like
You make a good
for
point though,
me,
Josh, because this something that is so minor
yeah,
can make a big difference when you're on the court. It may not be so huge when you're off the court, it may not bother you, but it might just be niggling there in the back of your mind. But when you're
right.
on the tennis court, it could really deflect your mind from the point to, okay, how am I going to solve what is in the back of my mind, which is
Right.
my shirt, and I have to keep pulling it up, or what have you.
Exactly.
What about women's attire? What do you think about women's
I just
clothing?
wanted to hit on one more thought. But do you remember, Maria, back in
Mhm.
like the 2000s and like 90s, guys were always messing with their outfits.
Yes,
Like it
yes.
was always uncomfortable, especially before serve. People were
Because if you're
constantly
sweating,
doing
it's
this.
sticking to your body as
Right.
well. Yeah.
Which I don't understand. Like we're professional
Mm.
tennis players. You shouldn't have to adjust your shirt, really. I don't see that happening in much other sports. Like, Not even in golf, like people are straight up adjusting their
Mm,
attire. But in this sport, I'm constantly seeing, well, back then I would constantly see players adjusting their shirt, especially when it was baggy, when they had those baggy
mm-hmm.
shirts.
Yes,
They're going crazy with it. The
yes,
women's side has always been very less clothes, you know what I mean? Like it hasn't been much clothes on, which I'm not arguing. I'm not mad about
yes,
it, you know.
yes.
I think
I don't think many males are having an issue with that. Uh,
no issue. I like even what Serena's been doing, like came out with all these wild clothing. And I really think that that's a way for tennis players to make more money. I know they do it on the women's side, but I
mhm.
wish, I truly wish that they came out with more outfits that are like, let's say Nick Kyrgios's shirts or Nick Kyrgios's pants, or to
For
get the
someone that's
players.
tall and then someone that's short, to come up with something that works with their body type. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
or even just come out with a line. Like I would like to see more players come out with a
Hmm.
line. Like yes, yeah, polos are great,
Are you
but
trying to tell us something? Are you gonna try and work on something with me?
maybe one day, yeah, for sure, let's do it. I would
Awesome.
love to see players, especially if you're in the top 10. I think every top 10 player should have a line, a clothing line, whether women's or men's. I don't know why they
Yes,
don't. And
yes.
I know that Adidas and Nikes have their outfits for the springtime or summertime, and all the
But it would
players
be a
have to
good
wear that.
idea, or even so, have the player that they're sponsoring have a huge input on the design of their
Yeah.
attire if they
Which I
don't
don't
come up
think,
with a line.
maybe those guys don't really care that much. They're like, hey, just pay
Mm,
me my money and that's it. But
yeah,
like I said, I'm a big fan of basketball, and every basketball player that is the top basketball player has a
that's very
shoe.
true. Good
They have
point.
a signature shoe, every single one of them.
They do.
And I think that tennis players, if you're in the top 10, you should have a signature shoe with your
Mhm.
name saying this is, you know, Dimitrov's shoe or Djokovic's
Yeah,
shoe. And
yeah,
Djokovic has one, Roger Federer has one, but I would like to
yeah,
see a lot more other players
very
have that
true.
with all kind of different colors and styles. And I think the more colorful, the better. What do you think
Yes.
about the
Well, I agree with you. I think they've come a long way with men's attire.
yeah,
I feel they're more fitted, more airy. You have more of the dry fit. They're improving in technology with the fabric, so I feel that that
right,
in itself helps. I do like how men are starting to come out with being comfortable wearing different colors.
sure.
Maybe you wouldn't have seen a man back in the day wearing pink. Nadal
Hmm.
sports pink sometimes, or his
Right,
bandana. So I like that some males get to wear something where it can be talked about, or it kind of differentiates the personality from the others. Regarding women, again with skirts, very airy. What I like is how they have those built-in shorts.
right,
Us women, we may need that at a
right,
period of the month.
sure,
I know that's too much TMI, but it's needed to be said because
sure,
it makes a woman feel more comfortable and more hygienic.
right,
So, and also with a skirt, you have that maneuverability. What I do like are the designs. They're being a little bit more daring than they did in the past. I think that they were
right,
a little bit more conservative, more reserved. And I feel that as long as whatever it is that a female wears, whether a male or female wears an accessory that stands out, many would say, well, you're playing a sport. Well, who cares? If
right.
that player enjoys wearing that accessory, they feel attractive or it helps their self-esteem, or they just like it just because they
I
can.
agree.
Who's to say that they can't wear it if they're performing and they're doing their job on the court? And
Right.
and as long as, for example, there was one episode where Venus had her beads and they fell off on the court. Well, okay, that's a one-off, but I think it was nice to watch.
Right.
It adds that fashion flair. And to me, fashion is not what everyone is doing. To me, fashion is
Right.
someone creating, just like you're saying. You want to see players bring out their unique taste and have it reflect on their clothing. So I kind of like where some women, like Sharapova, she used to wear the long dangly earrings. You
Right.
had Venus and Serena wearing the beads. You have them wearing unusual clothing as
Right.
well, tight, unique. It's going with a fashion. So all that versatility is nice. Why sit and be conformed to a extremely conservative?
Oh, I might have lost your audio there.
That interruption.
There you go. Got it. What were you saying?
I was
You're
just saying,
you're
why
saying
conform? Yeah, why conform to a conservative attire when tennis in itself is creative? You're putting your personality out there. You have to look at it as
absolutely
a dance as well. Like, if you think about it, tennis is you. It's your
right.
body. It's how you move your body to perform a shot. You
Right.
are what people are looking at, and you are
Sure.
on your own. So why not advertise who you are? I like the color red. Let me wear red. I like to wear this in my braids. Why not? If I'm performing well, I think by no means anyone should be told not to. Now, I do appreciate, you may disagree with me on this. I do like the attire in Wimbledon,
Right.
just only because it's something that they've just managed to keep, and it's a tradition. I think sometimes traditions are nice, whether you believe in it or not, whether you like going to England or not. It's just that different tournament that has certain standards, and it just,
Yes.
and don't take me wrong. I think all the four Grand Slams are equally great. I just think in my mind, the majority of people's perspective is Wimbledon due to the
Prestige.
things that I mentioned to you earlier.
Right.
Yes. So,
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there should be tradition, and I think
mhm,
Wimbledon does a great job with that.
yes.
I do not ask for the U.S. Open to be the same way because it's the
Hmm.
U.S. Open, right?
Hmm.
Wimbledon is its own thing where all these other tournaments are different. I think that US Open and these other tournaments should embrace what they have going on and not try to be like the Wimbledon. I don't think that's what you're trying to say, but I think you just appreciate what they have
I
done with their
appreciate what they
tradition
have
and
done. Exactly.
keeping up with the tradition, which I think everybody loves that. Yeah, I don't have a problem
Exactly.
with that.
Speaking of a tournament,
Yes.
I'd like to know, have your opinion of your greatest player of all time. I think we should wrap up with this, Josh. I know
Okay.
our viewers have, yeah, I know the first segment we went over an hour.
Yeah.
Our goal is to, try and stay within the 40 minutes. I don't know where we're at. You have a better view of that.
Yeah, we might
But
be
what is
about 30.
30? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Wow, we're doing pretty good.
We're doing good. We're on time. And if you want to see
It's us
more of
to
our
you.
content, go to our last video, go to our last podcast. I'm telling you, there's over an hour worth of content and check it out. You're not gonna like it. Or you're not gonna hate it. Sorry. You're gonna love it, actually.
No, it's a good way for you to
You're gonna
understand
love it. Who
our
we are.
reasons why we're doing these
Yeah, because
segments.
in that podcast, we went over who we are and where we're from and the backstory. Now we're just kind of jumping into it. But if you're asking me
Awesome.
who my favorite
Hmm.
tennis player is of all time,
Of all time,
I
male
would
and
have
female.
okay. So I can I would have to say, because I used to not like him when I was a kid. I didn't like him much. I would
Hmm.
have to say Roger Federer. When I was
Okay.
younger, I didn't like him
Who did
because
you
for
like
what
then?
I like Andre Agassi.
Hmm.
Um I liked uh Songa and
Oh,
Monfils, partially
okay.
because they're African American and as well
Hmm.
like also
Yeah.
because they were animated. They were animated on the court, both of those
Hmm.
guys. Monfils, when he won a big point, he would be happy and celebrate it. Same thing with Songa. When he won a big point, he would celebrate it.
Hmm.
Federer, on the other hand, would not. It crushed me. Like he would keep a stone face. This is like,
He was
when he
so
was
cool and collected, and I think
too
the
cool.
majority of people assumed that it was arrogance when it
Right.
was just great sportsmanship, and he didn't. He used it as a tool to not show his emotions, and he was so focused that that's the way he handles himself on the court. Uh,
And I think even the way that he handled himself and how successful he was may be a detriment to the sport, not in a major way, maybe in a minor way, because
mhm.
I would say as an audience member, somebody that's watching the sport, I like to see. Let
You
me
like
in
to
a
see the
little bit.
passion,
Yeah,
someone exerting the
let me in. What are you
feelings.
thinking? What's going on in your head? Like, oh, did that affect you? You won that point. Did that matter to you? Not so much. I'm not sure, but I feel like his coaching and his upbringing in the sport kept him so disciplined. And I think he wasn't always like that. I've seen documentaries and
So what made you
seen him
like
tell
him
his
more
story.
then, since you wanted to see more of him?
I think he plays perfect tennis. I mean,
Mm,
his movement was outstanding. His
mhm,
serve and volley was outstanding. Forehand
mhm,
outstanding. Backhand outstanding. Everything that he did when he was on the court, especially at 100, when he was
mhm.
100% physically. I mean, there's no but to
He
me,
had
there's no
good
better
hands. He
tennis
had
player
good
than that.
feel, so he could just
And
place the ball wherever he wanted it to.
and then
So
he was going against people that were super aggressive and super talented, right? Like he was
mm,
going against
mm,
Nadal. And if you ever watched
mm,
Nadal when he was younger, I mean, oh my
mm,
goodness, like
mhm,
he was a freak of nature athlete.
mm,
And Roger Federer beat him in those
mm,
finals.
mm,
And then when he was beating a younger Djokovic or beating all these other pros that were on the tour at that time, like he just knew
mhm,
what to do. And then as well, he knew how to execute, which was like crazy to me. I
mm.
just wish I
He
could
knew how to be
see.
offensive when he needed to. He knew how to be defensive when he needed to. He had to switch it up. He just had that gift, that talent where he just handled it like a game of chess. And
He could,
he,
yeah, he could find a
yeah,
way to win. And I mean, a
yeah.
lot of other players have one way to win their match.
Mm,
If it doesn't go that way, it's over. Where Roger Federer can say, okay, I'm a serve and volley the rest of the set, or I'm going to hit to his backhand the rest of the set, or I'll open up
don't
the
we
court
all
and
want
move
to
him
pick
around.
his brain?
I mean, geez, if he can come on the
Mm.
podcast, I would love it. But I
Oh
think,
gosh.
yeah, to me, he was my favorite. And it's not even like a fanboying because I just,
Hmm.
I don't know if I cared about his attitude as much
Hmm.
as I did about his overall game and
Hmm.
technique.
But you have
I
to
would,
respect that he was a gentleman on court, and
yeah,
I know you do. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I wanted to see more animation from him, which that's his style of game. So I don't want to say, oh, I want to see more animation from you. And now I'm more mature enough to say this. And then I'll let you get this. I'm gonna say this, and then I'll let you go into who you think is the best. Then on the women's side, when it was Serena. Serena Williams is by far my favorite women's tennis player. And I didn't really start watching her until I got older, but it just grew more respect. When you look at her history and
Hmm.
what she's done for the sport, what she's done for African
Hmm.
Americans, like
Hmm.
in the sport of
Very
tennis,
true.
the things that she has to go against,
That's very
even like
true.
the way that
So the
she
pressure is amplified even from being out on the court. Now she's dealing with where she's from, and
and she's the reverse where she was maybe a little too animated for who she was,
mm, mm,
but that also made her a great tennis player as well, just as was just how Roger Federer was
mhm.
able to be calm and cool and collected. She was different. She would be fiery and more animated, and that's something that I
Yeah,
really loved about
that's
her.
true.
Besides
That's
her game,
true.
I mean, she was just amazing. Great,
That's
great,
true.
great tennis player.
No,
Yeah.
good points there. Good points. Awesome.
Who do you think is your favorite tennis players
You
of all
know,
time?
it's funny
Go.
because I've thought about this, and you always have people asking you this question, especially when you're in the sport of tennis. And I find that individuals like or prefer a tennis player whom which they can relate to more.
Right.
For example, as you mentioned, Serena, it enabled, it gave hope more to Black tennis players to kind of bring themselves out into the game of tennis, because um, African Americans were in football and basketball, and we didn't have it so much in tennis. So it was good to
Sure.
see them kind of break the ice in tennis. Then you
Right.
have, for example, you have Navratilova and Billie Jean King. You have two women that are homosexuals that kind of not only um, opened up about their sexuality in the sport, but they also worked for women's rights. So women that have similar traits to them, respect them more, and might say that they might be the best players.
Right.
On the men's side, you may have Nadal, who's a fighter, and people that feel that they've had to fight throughout their lives to get to where they are can relate with him. Or you have Djokovic, who is not a sheep. He goes with what he believes, and he's his own person.
Right.
What are a couple other things? You have a couple other players that are European that maybe European watchers would appreciate even more.
Sure.
So for me, you're asking me the question. I've always, and this doesn't mean that they're the best of all time because of all the above that I mentioned to you, but I
Right.
really, really liked the game of Monica Seles. I like to hit the ball hard, as you know, when we've been hitting, and she used
Sure.
to put the ball away. And she, man, it was like she didn't have a racket; she had a weapon.
Wow.
Unfortunately, for those of you that don't know, she was stabbed on the court in a tournament in Germany. It was a fan of Steffi Graf's. Steffi Graf is a German tennis player.
Right.
And unfortunately, she short-lived her life in tennis. I think
Crazy.
she would have lasted for years and years and years, but we can't say that because it didn't happen. So I think
Yeah.
that luck plays a huge role too. On the men's side, um, in my era, I would say I didn't at first for the same reasons that you mentioned, Federer, but I grew older. I started becoming more mature as a human, so I started appreciating his maturity more.
Oh yeah.
However, all Kyrgios, we've had this discussion before, extremely talented,
Yeah.
and I think he's got that edgy side, which I love in the press conferences. Why go with the mainstream answers and the you don't want to always say things that people want to hear. You want to be you without being disrespectful. But I think overall, Federer, all-rounded, excellent talent there. For those that are serve and volley players, I'm sure they appreciate it. Ivanisevic, Kyrgios, Lendl, I remember.
Yeah.
So, like, again, greatest of all time. Is there really, or is it that we're just moving through the decades of tennis and we have great tennis players and we're just appreciating them? Do we appreciate them more because they are in our era? Or is it because we can relate to them? Or is it that we really truly think that they are the greatest of all time? So that's something for ourselves and our viewers to consider.
All right. Now, if those players don't play tennis anymore, well, they don't play professionally anymore. So just to wrap this up, we're going to conclude with this. Now you only have to pick one for men's, one for women. Who should you tune in to watch on TV as far as tennis players? What male should you tune in to watch? You got to watch and play. And what female should you tune in to watch where you got to watch her play? Do you have one? Or would you like me to go first? You want me to go first?
Go first. I don't have an answer yet for that. I haven't thought
Okay.
about it.
I think, in my opinion, now there's a lot of great tennis players out right now, but my heart is telling me to keep your eyes on Tsitsipas. I love this guy. I feel like he's one of the best players out there right now. Mentally, he's working out some stuff, but I think he could be really great. And I think he can play for a very long time. Women's side, of course, I like Naomi. She reminds me of a Serena, maybe a little bit not so powerful, but when she's on, she's on.
She's on
And she's one of
fire.
those, yeah, man. And when she's on, there's no better tennis player. And I feel like her focus hasn't really been on court as much as it has been when she was younger. But I still would tune in to watch her because she is animated. The crowd usually goes behind her, and it's usually a great match. There's other women out there that may be better players than her, but I feel like she's kind of like a fan favorite where if you go see her live, the crowd's going to be crazy. You know what I mean?
I agree. And I feel that the players that have that passion, they may not be there yet, but you see them. I really like that you brought that up. Yeah, not
Yeah.
necessarily those that have already achieved, but those that you are hoping or you see that they will be achieving long term. And I agree with you with Tsitsipas. He's a consistent player. Now it just popped into my head, and it probably should have popped in sooner. And not because I'm Greek, but I really, really love the dedication and the passion of Maria Sakkari.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think about that, and I feel like hitting my wrist for that. But overall, she's got a very healthy looking body. She has great endurance, great passion. I think what's holding her back is she expects perfection, which I think she knows her capability, and I think she's builds up in her because she knows she can be a champion. And sometimes when you want something too much, it can hurt you. But I think once she gets over that bump, I think that she might be unstoppable in the future. Tsitsipas, I mean, you might be right. I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. It's funny because when I see Djokovic and other players on their top game, he buckles down. And I don't know if it's mental or if it's his physical capability. However, he has wowed us and he has surprised us. Please remind me, there's one player before we finish here.
I have one too that I had to mention. I'm like,
I know
Josh,
who you're gonna
how
say,
can
and
you
we
not
discussed.
mention?
Yeah, he would put points away, and he would come up to the net and just take risks and not wait for a win, and not wait for the opponent to lose. He just goes out there and he goes for it, and that's very courageous.
Sure,
it's very courageous to go ahead and just put a point away. For those that don't understand tennis, to be able to close off a point, whether you are 6-1 up or down 6-1. Both are immensely difficult. And if you are able to turn points around and you're able to close off, or you're able to come up from 6-1, to me that shows a lot of courage. Not necessarily just the results, but the way you handle yourself on the court, by the way.
Oh, Marie, you got cut off there.
Sorry, I know. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Coming call.
So listen, we're going to conclude, but I want to mention two players, okay, just to watch. I don't think the greatest of all time yet, but Carlos Alcaraz, Coco Gauff. Look out for these two players. I mean, wow, they're going to be looking great for a while.
You're right. That's the one I was thinking of as
Coco
well.
Gauff? Carlos Alcaraz.
Yes.
Alcaraz. Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything you want to mention to our viewers?
I've heard him many times. I'm sorry, very quickly. Curious if he manages to turn around, because he's had a good run in the Australian with Kokinas. He did very well in the doubles. I think he lacks a little bit of confidence, even though we see him exert his little behaviors. I think deep down he's working on things, and I think that if he comes through, I think that he'll be an exceptional player with the talent that he has.
That'll be interesting. He's one to watch as well. So a couple things I wanted to mention. This is our second episode. First episode is already on YouTube. Go on our YouTube, Rallying Thoughts, episode 1. You can watch the whole thing. This is our episode 2. I just want to go ahead and plug my Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Josh Morain. I changed my name, Maria. It's Josh Morain now. It's not Josh.tennispressplay.
Because you are Josh Morain.
Just look up Josh Morain and you'll find me. I have all kind of tutorials there, videos of me hitting. If you want to DM me, you can DM me through there. Anything you want to plug in there, Maria?
No, as far as myself with social media, I don't want to, as of right now, I haven't produced any content on there. Maybe I will in the future with you. I keep it personal for right now.
Sure.
But I'm definitely looking forward to great segments with you, Josh. I have a lot of love for you, and I enjoy our talks, and I'm looking forward to the next one next week.
Yeah. So guys, if you just drop a comment, if you want us to talk about a certain topic, or if you have comments about what we mentioned,
from you guys.
We want to hear from you. So go ahead and drop that comment, hit the like button. It's going to really help our
and subscribe, please.
It's going to help our audience grow, because we want this podcast to grow. And there's so many ideas that we want
to have the ability to interview your favorite tennis player. That's our goal.
Eventually. Eventually. So we're getting to that point, and it's going to be there. But thank you guys so much for watching, from both of us, Maria and myself.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching, and just tune in for that next episode. This is Josh, and this is
Maria,
yeah. We're
and
closing out.
with Rallying Thoughts, you have a wonderful day, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Let's see. Got it. All right. Perfect.